Let me give you an example. During my sophomore year of college, I had this roommate next door, and he played music really loud, but it wasn't during the day, of course, when we were in class. He liked to play it, at midnight, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, late at night. And I just remember sitting there like trying to go to sleep, and I can't because the bass is just popping over here. And some of the other guys on the floor, they tried to tell him, hey, can you turn down the music? And he said, what he said? He said, oh, this is my room. It's my music. I'm going to play it however loud I want. And so I'd just be in there night after night listening to this music, trying to fall asleep. And over time, I started to get this desire in me to seek revenge. Like I had this fantasy that I'd wake up in the morning at 6 in the morning and take some pots and pans and start banging them around on his side of the wall just so he could know what it's like to have to deal with this noise. But you know what? One day I met with a guy that was discipling me. And I shared my struggles with my neighbor. I'm like, it's 2 weeks into school, and man, this is really rough. And you know what he did? He took me to this very passage in 1 Peter chapter 3. And he said, Chris, instead of repaying evil for evil, how might you be a blessing to your neighbor? Now, friends, that is not what I wanted to hear from him in that moment, was it? Like I wanted him to say, come on, let's go. I'll bring my pots and pans. Let's go, let's go. Yes, you deserve this. I can't believe that he would do this to you. You got to get him back. But the guy that was discipling me, he didn't say any of that and all. Instead, he just said, hey, how can you be a blessing to him instead? And so that day I went home, and I forgot about it. And then a couple days later, I remembered what he said. And so I prayed about it. And I decided that instead of being, somebody that was trying to seek revenge, I was going to be a blessing to him instead. And so for the next couple weeks, instead of resenting him, I ended up befriending him. I started to notice that he never really left his room. He didn't seem to have friends. And so I started inviting him to football games and dinners with my friends. And then I found out he really liked Texas Hold'em. That was like his thing. So we all started playing Texas Hold'em together. And he was a pretty cool guy. And then one night, about 2 weeks into this, I was trying to go to sleep. He was blaring his music. And I got a knock at the door. And I got out of bed, and I opened up the door. I was kind of half asleep at this point. And it was my neighbor. And he said, hey, Chris, is my music too loud? Now, what I wanted to say was, is your music too loud? But I said, yes. Yeah, I'm having a hard time sleeping. And he said, well, you know what? I'll turn it down for you, no problem. And he went over to his room, and he immediately turned down the music. And I remember standing in the doorway thinking, man, 2 weeks ago, I didn't even know this guy. I resented this guy. I wanted to seek revenge on this guy. And yet here we are 2 weeks later, and not only do we now know each other, we're friendly, but he cares enough about me as a person to turn down the music. For weeks, he's been telling all these people, I'll do whatever I want. And yet he's considering me. All because instead of trying to seek revenge, the guy who was discipling me encouraged me and challenged me to be a blessing to him instead.